Hey guys, Dark Swordsman here. My name is Kyle. So today I'm going to replace the injectors on my 1.6 Miata. I currently have 1.8 injectors in there. I have them in there because I had a fuel issue and that was the only thing I could get. So I wanted to switch back to the 1.6 to get better gas mileage. It already has great gas mileage, but I wanted to improve a little more, back to where it was. So yeah, here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an 8mm to remove the 4 screws here for this piece because the fuel rail is right below here and you can't take it out without removing this. Once you take this piece out, you just pull out the PCV valve. Usually you can pull it out through this, but mine's having issues, so I'm just going to pull off from here. There we go. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to pull off this hose for the FPU. And they're just going to remove the 2 bolts here. They're 12mm bolts. The only thing is that there's a little spacer between the engine and the fuel pressure rail, or the fuel rail. You've got to make sure that those don't fall down into the engine. Next, what you're going to do is just unclip the fuel injectors. This might have been easier before I took the bolts off, but whatever, it's too late now. So, here we go. I'm just going to pull the spacers out now, so I don't have to worry about them. These are little spacers. Okay, and when you do that, the fuel injectors will kind of come out a little bit, and there might be a little bit of fuel left over. If a little bit of fuel gets in your engine bay, don't worry about it. It's like a higher chance of a fire starting, but it's usually not a problem. And if you let it sit for like an hour or something, it should dry up a fair bit. But if you really want to, you can try to put paper towels or shop towels underneath where the fuel rail is, just to make sure that nothing really gets anywhere. Alright, and now that all your fuel rail is unbolted and your injectors are unplugged, you should be able to just pull the fuel rail up a little bit and out. Just be careful because the ends of the fuel injectors have little spacers on them, and you don't want to lose those. Sometimes they might stick in the engine, or they might pull out with the injector. Now, since I'm just replacing the injectors, I don't really need to pull the fuel rail out that much. So what I'm going to do, alright, so this part of the injector is obviously in the fuel rail, and then the other part goes into the engine. The way to pull them out, you just literally kind of slide them out this way. There's going to be a little bit of fuel that'll come out because of the pressure in the fuel rail, but it's not a huge deal. It has an O-ring here, a little spacer here, and then this is the other spacer I was talking about. This will usually stay on the fuel injector, but sometimes it'll stay in the block, or the head, I'm sorry. They might not come off easy, but yeah, so you do this for all 4 of them, and then once you do that, you just put in the new injectors, and then that's it. Alright, so here are the new, the 1.6 injectors. They're a little different. They just have blue caps on them. Every injector is different, but these are physically the same. So the main thing here is that you notice on the old ones that were in the car, here it doesn't have the spacer, Here it does have the spacer. It's just because it came out with the car. So what you want to do is remove this spacer if it's on there, which is twist it off a little bit and it'll come right out. And then the other thing you want to do is this O-ring right here. And just to mention, this little spacer here, it does come with the injector usually. If it doesn't, then you can just slide it off like this and just put a new one on like that. The main thing here is that these attach to the fuel rail and they kind of help with the sealing of the fuel rail. Initially, I did have a little bit of a leak in my number 1 cylinder fuel injector. It was kind of coming out here, but that was mainly because of a bad O-ring here. The old O-ring was kind of chipped up because it was just had been used for so long. And then you just put the the little spacer that goes into the head. You'll see that one side has a little bit of a raised bump on the inside. On the other side, it has a crevice towards the middle of the ring. This little crevice will go on towards the injector, so like this. So you just slide that on. You gotta twist a little bit. So something that I realized, but I didn't really think, you just kind of roll your finger back on this, or use your nail, and it should just kind of pop off. There we go. Goes right off. And then same with the new injectors. You just kind of put it on the edge like that, and you just roll it around like that, and that's it. Okay, so here's our new injectors. Well, new, yeah, you know. Now we're just gonna put these in. I'll time lapse it, whatever. Or I, you know, couldn't, and just let you suffer. So in this case, cylinder 1, the spacer came out. Cylinder 2, the spacer stayed in. You can just leave the spacer in. You don't have to take it out. Cylinder 3, it's out, and cylinder 4 is in. So it's probably easier to, it's easier to put it in the fuel rail first. Just kind of snug it up in there. Like that. So you slide it back in here, so that way it, sets in. So I didn't record it because it's a pain in the ass, but what we had to do is you had to line up each injector with the hole and make sure that the spacer's there, and line up everything and just kind of push it in with a good amount of force. I put all the clips back in, and now I'm just going to tighten down the 12mm bolts that hold the fuel rail in. And snug, not too tight, but a little bit snug because it's aluminum head. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to replace the fuel pressure unit valve, or the tube, whatever. Everything's the same, isn't it? There we go. And you're just going to replace the PCV valve, tube, whatever. Don't worry about names, just worry about what the hell you're looking at, and you'll get along. Okay, this isn't working. Just push it down like that. And just make sure it's in. And then let's put these clips back on like that. Make sure that they actually are snug, which is not going on here, but you know what, screw it. Now you're just going to replace this piece. Just make sure that this gasket's in there, or else it'll leak a little bit. If your gasket's old and it's worn, obviously replace it, but this one is fine. Like, it's not really chipped anywhere, and it's got thick enough, it's thick enough that it'll work. So yeah, just slide it on, Just put a few bolts in. So I completely forgot about this, but you have to put the bottom left one in first, or else the valve cover gets in the way and you can't get to it. So just slide that in first before you do anything, and then just kind of line it up. Alright, so next what you gotta do, you have to jump the ground and fuel pump with a paper clip. What this will do is all the pressure that was lost in the front end of the system will be replaced, obvious, or whatever. Then once you have the fuel pump and ground connected, you just put your car in the on position, and you should hear the fuel pump engage, and then you just let it prime for a few minutes, and then after that you start it. Also, while your system is priming, just check the fuel rail to make sure that there's no leaks really along where the connections are of the fuel injector and the fuel rail, and also just check the head and the fuel injector. Once it's primed for a few minutes, you can just take this out. You can hear it turn off, close it. Go in and remember to put this back in to the box, just so that way I have it. Once everything is primed and ready and you take out the fuel pump and ground, then you can just go ahead and start the engine. It might take a couple cycles, but we'll do it. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped some of you. This is more of me just doing what I normally do, not really trying to be informative or tell you exactly what to do. This is just what I do. If it helps, it helps. If you like this video, make sure you just like it. Please subscribe, it really helps. And yeah, share us with your friends, comment, whatever. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.